The observation deck of the orbital station Kepler-7 hummed with its usual mechanical rhythm, but today the silence among its crew was different. Verk stood before the reinforced glass viewport, his reflection ghostly against the backdrop of Earth's blue curve. Behind him, preserved in a crystalline stasis chamber, lay the body of something that had once pretended to be human. "They're here," Commander Chen's voice cracked through the comm system. Verk didn't turn. He'd been waiting for this moment for 3 weeks, ever since Elsa had died in his arms on the frozen surface of Europa. The alien vessel materialized without the fanfare humans had come to expect from first contact scenarios. No brilliant flash of exotic propulsion, no dramatic exit from hyperspace. It simply appeared, as if it had always been there and reality was only now acknowledging its presence. The ship was geometrically impossible, surfaces that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human perception could properly process. Verk's jaw tightened. Somewhere on that vessel were the beings who had sent Elsa to Earth 23 years ago. Elsa Moravec had arrived at the Kepler-7 station 6 months earlier as part of the xenobiology research team. Verk, the station's chief engineer, had noticed her immediately, not because of her striking appearance, but because of the way she moved. There was something too precise about her gestures, too calculated. In zero gravity, where most humans flailed awkwardly for weeks, she had adapted in hours. "You're starring again," she'd said to him one evening in the cultivation lab, where bioluminescent algae cast strange shadows across her face. "I'm observing," Verk had corrected. "There's a difference." She'd smiled then, and it had been genuine. That smile would haunt him for the rest of his life. Their friendship had grown organically, two brilliant minds finding kinship in the isolation of space. They'd spent countless hours discussing the Fermi paradox, the possibility of silicon-based life, and whether consciousness could exist without biological substrate. Elsa had always had insights that seemed to come from somewhere beyond human intuition. The Europa mission had been routine: collect ice core samples, deploy seismic sensors, return to orbit. But beneath the frozen crust, they discovered something that changed everything. An archaeological site, millions of years old, built by the same species that had sent Elsa. She'd known exactly what it was the moment they'd illuminated the first chamber. "Verk," she'd said through the comm, her voice trembling for the first time since he'd known her, "I need to tell you something." The facility had activated at her presence, ancient technologies responding to genetic markers encoded in her DNA. That's when the ice shelf had collapsed, and in the chaos of falling debris and ruptured pressure suits, Elsa had made her choice. She'd pushed Verk toward the shuttle and sealed the chamber door behind her. Through the porthole, he'd watched as she'd removed her helmet in the vacuum, but she hadn't died immediately. Instead, her human disguise had begun to fail. Her skin had become translucent, revealing patterns of light beneath. Her eyes had shifted to a spectrum humans couldn't name. "Tell them," she'd said, her voice now in his mind rather than through the comm, "that I chose to be human. Tell them I chose you." Then the facility had self-destructed, and Verk had barely escaped with her body. The docking procedure took hours. The alien vessel refused to fully integrate with human technology, requiring manual adjustments and workarounds that would have been comedic under different circumstances. Verk supervised every connection, every seal, his hands steady despite the turmoil within. When the airlock finally opened, Verk stood alone in the reception bay. Commander Chen had wanted a full diplomatic contingent, but Verk had insisted. This was personal. 3 beings emerged, and Verk's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. They were simultaneously solid and ethereal, their forms shifting slightly as if his perception couldn't quite lock onto their true nature. They were tall, perhaps 9 feet, and moved with a grace that made Elsa's precision seem clumsy by comparison. The central figure spoke, and though no sound emerged, Verk understood. "Engineer Verk Sharma, we have come for our child." She has a name, Verk said aloud, his voice harder than he'd intended. Elsa, she chose that name herself. The aliens paused, a moment of what might have been confusion passing between them. The designation was for integration purposes only, another alien communicated. The individual you knew was crystalline, resonance 347, seventh offspring of the luminal Concord, sent to observe your species' readiness for contact. She was more than that, Verk said. She was my friend. She was brilliant, funny, curious. She loved Earth's oceans. She cried during sunsets. She was human. Impossible, the third alien stated. The biological mimicry was comprehensive, but the consciousness remained separate, unaffected by human neural patterns. Verk felt anger rising in his chest. Then explain why she saved me. Explain why she chose to die rather than let me sacrifice myself. Your observation unit developed something you didn't program into her. She developed a soul. He turned and gestured to the stasis chamber where Elsa's body lay. In death, her disguise had partially failed, leaving her in a state between human and alien. Her face was still recognizably hers, but light moved beneath her skin like aurora borealis trapped in ice. The three aliens approached the chamber, and for the first time, Verk saw something like emotion cross their features. The central figure placed what might have been a hand against the crystal. We sent 10,000 observers to civilizations across this galactic arm, it communicated. Never has one failed to return. Never has one chosen integration over duty. Maybe that says more about those other civilizations than it does about Elsa's failure, Verk said quietly. The alien turned to face him, and Verk felt the full weight of an intelligence vast beyond human comprehension examining him. Show us, it commanded. Show us what changed our child. Verk had prepared for this. He'd compiled everything, every conversation, every shared meal in the station's mess hall, every late-night discussion about the nature of existence. Video logs, audio recordings, even his own personal journal entries. He'd loaded it all into the station's central archive. This will take hours to review, he said. We experience time differently than you, the alien replied. Begin transmission. What followed was the strangest experience of Verk's life. He stood in the observation deck, while the three aliens interfaced directly with the station's computer systems, processing months of data in minutes. He watched their forms flicker and shift as they absorbed Elsa's human life. They saw her first tentative smiles, her wonder at tasting chocolate, the way she'd laughed when Verk had attempted to teach her cricket in the zero-G recreation sphere, her tears when they'd received news that a solar flare had destroyed a colony transport, killing 300 people she'd never met. They saw the moment she'd confessed to Verk that she sometimes forgot she wasn't really human. They saw her final choice on Europa. When it was finished, the three aliens stood motionless for a long moment. Then, slowly, with a deliberateness that seemed to carry ritual significance, they lowered themselves before Verk, not quite kneeling in the human sense, but a gesture of such profound respect that its meaning was unmistakable. We came to collect our property, the central figure communicated. We leave having met a teacher. Verk felt tears on his cheeks. I don't understand. We have traveled the stars for eons, the alien continued. We have witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. We have cataloged 1,000,000 forms of sentience. But we had never truly understood what you call humanity until we saw it reflected in our own child. The alien rose and approached Verk directly. She chose death over survival. She chose love over logic. She chose meaning over mere existence. These are not weaknesses as we believed. They are the very essence of what makes consciousness sacred. Another alien spoke. We will not take her body. She chose to be human, and humans bury their dead on their homeworld, yes. Verk nodded, unable to speak. Then let her rest in the soil of Earth, the third alien said. And let her name be remembered, not as crystalline, Resonance 347, but as Elsa Moravec, who taught the unteachable. The central figure made a gesture, and suddenly Verk's mind was filled with images, not memories, but possibilities. He saw first contact protocols being rewritten across the luminal Concord. He saw human-alien cultural exchange programs. He saw a future where Elsa's choice had fundamentally altered the course of galactic civilization. Your species will be invited to join the greater community, the alien communicated. Not because of your technology or your potential, but because one human showed one of our children what it meant to truly live. Verk taught me that, a voice said. Verk spun around. The stasis chamber had opened and Elsa stood there, her form still partially alien but her eyes, her wonderfully familiar eyes, focused on him. The human body died, she said, her voice a mixture of her human voice and something vaster. But consciousness, it turns out, is more portable than either of our species believed. The alien leaders made sounds that might have been their equivalent of laughter. It seems, the central one communicated, that our child has one more lesson to teach us about the persistence of identity. Elsa walked toward Verk, and despite her changed appearance, her smile was exactly as he remembered. "I'm not quite human anymore," she said, "and I'm not quite what I was, but I'm still me, still Elsa, if you'll have me." Verk pulled her into an embrace, feeling the strange texture of her new form, the light moving beneath what had once been skin. "Always," he said. The three alien leaders bowed their heads once more, this time to both of them. "We leave you with a gift," they communicated. "The knowledge Elsa gained from the Europa facility. It will accelerate your civilization's development by centuries. Use it wisely." As they returned to their impossible ship, Verk held Elsa close and watched through the viewport as the vessel disappeared the same way it had arrived, simply ceasing to be there. "They came for a body," Elsa whispered, "and left with hope." Verk smiled. "You taught them that, you taught all of us." In the distance, Earth turned in its eternal dance, unaware that one human engineer and one alien who chose to be human had just rewritten the future of two civilizations. And in the quiet of the observation deck, as stars burned in the infinite darkness, Verk realized that the greatest discovery humanity would ever make wasn't out there among the stars. It was in the simple, profound choice to care for someone else more than yourself. It was, and always would be, love. And,